Once again, good afternoon everyone. Our research entitled TBA Selected High School Student Managing Distraction as an Online Student. Chapter 1. The Problem and its Background. 1.1 Introduction. Dealing with the unanticipated challenges caused by COVID-19 has significantly impacted students all across the world. Universities have paused in-person classes while students have started a whole new phase of learning. While these protect students and help reduce the spread of the virus, it still negatively affects student education. Many face challenges when online learning, including distraction when studying or attending classes at home. A main source of distraction is digital technology. In addition to electronic devices, background noises can be a huge obstacle when it comes to online learning. In fact, sitting in a silent environment often emphasizes background noises even more. Television, family members, pets running in the house, or siblings listening to loud music can all be sources of interruption. However, distractions are not limited to those inside the house. Outside noises, like kids playing in the street, neighbors having parties, loud cars, and barking dogs can draw attention away from school. Even weather can be a distraction. Imagine a strong wind blowing through the trees or a loud thunderstorm with rain. All these noises and more can end up disrupting students and affecting their studies. Now, let's proceed to the background of the study. Distraction is caused by the lack of ability to pay attention, lack of interest in the object of attention, or a great intensity, novelty, or attractiveness of something other than the object of attention. Distraction comes from both external and internal sources. External distraction includes factors such as visual triggers, social interactions, music, text, messages, and phone calls. There are also internal distractions such as hunger, fatigue, illness, worrying, and daydreaming. Both external and internal distraction contribute the interference of focus. Distraction is one of the hardest to avoid, especially when you are in online class. So, we asked the TBA or Trinity Baptist Academy student what they can answer in our survey so we know how much they really have difficulties with distraction. Most of all, they really experience it. So, we need to let them know how to avoid. It's just like finding a place where no one will bother you or them so you can focus on what you are doing. 1.3. Statement of the problem. This study aims to determine the ability on how to manage distraction while in online class. Here are the study to seek the answer some of the questions. First, why TBA high school selected students are always distracted? Second, how does distraction affect learning? Third, what makes them feel distracted? And last, how will they overcome distraction in an online class? 1.4 Scope and the limitations. The general intent of this study is to know how to manage distraction in online learning practices of the middle adolescents in high school student of Trinity Baptist Academy of the Hill, with the focus of helping them to focus and prevent distraction. This study will mainly identify and assess different factors that affect everyday doings of the middle adolescent student. Also, this study year to identify on how can the researcher develop and assist the middle adolescent student to be self-reliant and identifying, dealing, and intervening with the different health issues related to online learning measures that the middle adolescent student is currently facing the problem that may come in future. This study will be conducted with limited amount of financial resources and time-paid work.
Chapter 2. Review of related literature.
Based on our research, students who take online courses are exposed to more distractions than in face-to-face classes, a situation that affects their academic performance. According to a study, the low percentages of completion of this type of educational programs seem to confirm this thesis. In the comfort of home, cafeteria, or library, online students are more likely to send text messages, answer emails, chat on Facebook or WhatsApp, watch videos on YouTube, search on Google, play video games, or listen to music. While taking an online course compared to a teacher supervised class, online students who had a greater tendency to multitask scored lower in academic tests compared to their performance on face-to-face courses. Even those students who assume great ability to self-regulate this behavior could not resist performing other tasks in their online classes. They multitask with a frequency similar to that of other students who felt more prone to distraction.
Chapter 3. Research Methodology. The researchers are interested in learning more about why Trinity Baptist Academy students, particularly those in grade 9 to 12, is getting distracted while in online class. In order to collect data, the researchers used a quantitative approach. Google Form was used to conduct the survey. The Google Form survey received 44 responses. The result of the responses are provided already on the site Google Form. The following graphs are derived from the latter as well. Some numerical figures are also taken there. Take note, the percentage of the said surveys are indicated in graph.
For question number 1, how many you experience in online class? 27 out of 44 students chose C as their answer. 12 out of 44 students chose B as their answer. And 5 out of 44 students chose A as their answer. For question number 1, most of TBA students chose more than a year as their answer. This implies that most of the respondents are more than a year in online class. For question number 2, how many are you in your house doing online class? 23 out of 44 students chose C as their answer. 18 out of 44 students chose B as their answer. And 3 out of 44 students chose A as their answer. For question number 2, most of the TBA students chose 3 as their answer. This implies that most of the respondents have 3 or more students in their house is attending class online. For question number 3, how are you putting your phone to do not disturb while doing online class? 20 out of 44 students chose B as their answer. 15 out of 44 students chose C as their answer. And 9 out of 44 students chose A as their answer. For question number 3, most of the TBA students chose no as their answer. It implies that most of the respondents is not putting their phone to do not disturb. For question number 4, have you ever played online games when the online class continues? 28 out of 44 students chose B as their answer. 13 out of 44 students chose C as their answer. 3 out of 44 students chose A as their answer. For question number 4, most of the TBA students chose no as their answer. It implies that most of respondents aren't play games during the online class. For question number 5, have you ever turning off distracting media like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter when doing online class? 16 out of 44 students chose C as their answer. 16 out of 44 students chose B as their answer. And 12 out of 44 students chose A as their answer. For question number 5, most of the TBA students chose no and sometimes as their answer. It implies that most of the respondents aren't turning off their media to focus in online class. For question number 6, have you ever chatted someone when online class continues? 34 out of 44 students chose A as their answer. 9 out of 44 students chose C as their answer. And 1 out of 44 students chose B as their answer. For question number 6, most of the TBA students chose yes as their answer. It implies that most of the respondents are chatted someone while online class continues. For question number 7, how many devices you are used when you're doing online class? 20 out of 44 students chose A as their answer. 19 out of 44 students chose B as their answer. 5 out of 44 students chose C as their answer. For question number 7, most of the TBA students chose 1 and 2 as their answer. It implies that most of the respondents have 2 or more devices that they are using while online class continues. For question number 8, what problems do you encounter in online class? 35 out of 44 students chose A as their answer. 7 out of 44 students chose B as their answer. And 2 out of 44 students chose C as their answer. For question number 8, most of TBA students chose internet connection as their answer. This implies that most of the respondents are encountering poor internet connection, especially while having their class online. For question number 9, how can we avoid online distraction? 25 out of 44 students chose A as their answer. 15 out of 44 students chose C as their answer. And 4 out of 44 students chose B as their answer. For question number 9, most of the TBA students chose block access to distracting website as their answer. It implies that most of the respondents thinks that blocking access to the distracting website is one of the best way to avoid distraction. For question number 10, how do I stop being distracted in social media? 25 out of 44 students chose A as their answer. 10 out of 44 students chose B as their answer. And 9 out of 44 students chose C as their answer. For question number 10, most of the TBA students chose close any social media sites and apps now as their answer. It implies that most of the respondents thinks that closing any social media site and app is the best way on how they stop being distracted. For question number 11, what often distract you as you engage in online class? 24 out of 44 students chose C as their answer. 19 out of 44 students chose B as their answer. 1 out of 44 students chose A as their answer. For question number 11, most of the TBA students chose poor internet connection as their answer. It implies that most of the respondents had some difficulties because of poor connection, that's why they are often distracted. For question number 12, what kind of gadget are you using to get into the online class? 17 out of 44 students chose B as their answer. 15 out of 44 students chose A as their answer. 12 out of 44 students chose C as their answer. For question number 12, most of the TBA students chose cell phone as their answer. This indicates that most of the respondents use their cell phones when taking online class. For question number 13, what kind of apps, websites are always bothering you while you engage in online class? 30 out of 44 students chose B as their answer. 13 out of 44 students chose A as their answer. And 1 out of 44 students chose C as their answer. For question number 13, most of the TBA students chose Messenger as their answer. It implies that most of the respondents use messengers while they are engaged in online class. For question number 14, how much time do you spend using your gadgets? 26 out of 44 students chose A as their answer. 10 out of 44 students chose B as their answer. And 8 out of 44 students chose C as their answer. For question number 14, most of the TBA students chose 4 hours as their answer. It implies that most of the respondents are been indulging the screen almost about 4 hours. 15. Are you sure that you are focused while taking an online class? 17 out of 44 students chose B as their answer. And 17 out of 44 students chose A as their answer. For question number 15, most of the TBA students chose No as their answer. It implies that most of them are not focused when they are in online class. For question number 16, do you sleep early so you are able to join class on time? 22 out of 44 students chose B as their answer. 17 out of 44 students chose C as their answer. And 9 out of 44 students chose A as their answer. For question number 16, most of the TBA students chose No as their answer. It implies that the 51.1% of TBA students who answered our survey are not sleeping early, so that they are feeling drowsy while attending class online. For question number 17, do you turn off your gadget while you're focused on the online class? 15 out of 44 students chose A as their answer. 15 out of 44 students chose B as their answer. And 14 out of 44 students chose C as their answer. For question number 17, most of the TB students chose yes, no, and sometimes, almost equally as their answer. It implies that 33.33% of them is turning off their gadgets, and 33.33% also turning off sometimes, and 32% is still turning on their gadgets during online class. And for the last and final question, number 18, is internet connection is one of the reason why you are distracted? 20 out of 44 students chose C as their answer. 17 out of 44 students chose A as their answer. And 7 out of 44 students chose B as their answer. For question number 18, most of the TB students chose sometimes as their answer. It implies that most of the respondents chose internet connection as their most reason why they are distracted.